So with that, I'll turn it over to Anne for our actual program.
That's right. Thanks, Carol. And sorry I forgot to put the date on the native tree and shrub distribution, but the orders went really fast last time, so the ordering now is as important as the pickup later, because you can also have somebody pick up for you if you're not available on that day. Okay, sorry, I'm not advancing right now.
There you go. I'll do it that way.
Yeah, I said times when it's doing more than one thing, it gets a little hung up. So we're very excited that you all are here to learn how you can become a tree rescuer. We've got the saplings covered through the new trees with our partnership for the tree and shrub distribution. So now we're focusing on mature trees, which of course provide more ecosystem services than new trees. So we need to be doing both of those. And you can see here, stormwater capture. I'm sure a lot of you see a lot of the issues with stormwater around here. Carbon sequestration, the heating, cooling effects, of course, food and habitat for wildlife, and providing shade and windbreaks. So I'm sure these pictures are from Blacksburg, and I'm sure that, like me, you're seeing a lot of these around town. I didn't know the full effect of the problems that they cause as far as strangling and shading out the leaves of the trees, competing for nutrients, holding moisture close to the bark that can rot the trees. So last fall, I'm also a Virginia master naturalist, and we have quite a few other master naturalists in the room and online. The state organization had a webinar last fall where they talked about a program in Northern Virginia where they started a tree rescuers program, and it's primarily education and awareness. And it's a pretty simple solution as far as cutting the vines from the trees and saving them from all the harmful effects. And one other thing I wanted to mention here, this tree is in my neighborhood. It's on some property I'm not actually, it's between town land and an apartment complex. Unfortunately, fell where there wasn't anything else for it to damage. But if this was in somebody's yard, this could fall on a fence or a car or a house. So besides the ecosystem services that we're losing, they can cause damage also. So we are going to show a little introduction that's from the Northern Virginia program, because they've already got videos and a number of other resources because they've been doing this for a while. So we're going to show that right now.
Everyone loves trees, right? Can you imagine a community without its many species of native trees and the birds and butterflies they support? There's something seriously wrong with these trees. Are trees supposed to be fuzzy? Sure, aren't supposed to be smothered. Someone needs to tell the owners before their trees are strangled to death. Collapse on your houses. Guess what? That someone is us. Most people have no idea that Japanese honeysuckle, Asian wisteria, and Oriental bittersweet wrap around trees and strangle them as they grow. Or the porcelain berry and yuzu will cut off life and smother them. Or the English ivy will weigh them down so they fall over during storms. This is how you can help. First, read the instructions and sign up on the Plant Nova Trees website to be a tree rescuer. Walking or biking only in safe public areas. Look for trees that have vines growing on them. Finally, drop off a brochure with the residents to alert them to the problem. Keep a tally of how many at-risk trees you find on each property. Let us know which properties you surveyed and what the total number of at-risk trees was. You can draw us a map or just send us a description. then submit the data on the recording board. What we don't want anyone to do is cut down native vines, which are meant to grow on native trees. It's totally fine if you don't know what kind of vine you're seeing. You don't want people saw all the trees at risk in Northern Virginia. So the more you can spread the word and you can get friends to help, the more trees we can save.
Earlier. Let's see if I can get. Okay, sorry, trying to go back and forth. So obviously our process is a little different, but the idea is the same, is to let landowners know that the hazards and what they can do about it. So we have started our own projects here. It's a collaboration between Sustainable Blacksburg and the town of Blacksburg Office of Sustainability. Carol does so many different things, but she also set up a public land group that meets with stakeholders that are interested in things that are happening on town land and parks and things. And so after I learned about this program through the Master Naturalist, I brought this up at a meeting, and she was as excited as I was about this, because obviously we noticed these trees all over. So that's how we got started. And it is an approved service project for Master Naturalists. So if it's not in the list already, it will be very soon. And we're starting this kind of as a pilot. So from now until Earth Day, we're going to be working on this kind of testing our system, which is somewhat different than the process that we're using is a little different than the Northern Virginia one. So like them, we're asking people to only make observations from the street or publicly accessible location. This is a public trail near where I live, the Shenandoah Trail. Some of you may be familiar with it. And we're focusing on, instead of trying to address, I think they had 6 vines, we're focusing on the 2 vines that are most commonly seen. And English ivy is the one I see by far the most of. And we wanted to kind of get this going now before too many other things leaf out, because since English ivy is evergreen, it's really easy to see right now. So, and it's easy to identify it from other vines. And this is a brochure this is one of the pages of the brochure we're going to be putting out. This is something Carol put together. And you can see that she's got the how to identify those 2 vines, and then when they are leafed out, how to tell them from Virginia creeper and poison ivy. And I can tell you from personal experience that poison ivy really likes to be with some of these others. So it's definitely something to watch out for. If you see something, a case where you're not sure where the landowner is, because this is also in my neighborhood and I'm not sure who owns this land because of where it is, but you can let us know about cases like that too, so that we can kind of try to investigate to figure out who owns the land. So we're also hoping that landowners will also participate for themselves, surveying their own property and cutting the invasive vines at shoulder height and pulling them from the base. You want to leave the vines in the canopy to die back naturally, because pulling them down could damage the tree. And again, try to avoid the native vines. And Carol's going to explain the process of how to report these things to us. So you can see, again, these are pictures I took in my neighborhood just in the last couple of weeks. But you can see that these trees have a lot of vines on them, and they're not wrapped around like bittersweets, and they're not leafed out like English ivy. So I'm not sure what these are, maybe poison ivy, but anyway, leave these vines alone. And I also took a few pictures of, these are some cases in my neighborhood where the vines are just starting on the tree. So it's not out of control yet, but the landowners can still start now to remove the vines around those trees. And this is a little bit of a cautionary tale here. I belong to Blacksburg United Methodist Church, which also owns the property where the food pantry is on Harding Avenue and the Edges campus. And this is, I got permission from them to work on some of the trees there. And you can see looking up, this is one of the trees. It looks sort of innocent at the bottom. You can see those vines kind of growing up there. And then again, we've got the, how to address these trees. But I also discovered, this is one invasive plant I don't have on my own property. So most of my experience has been in stadium woods, just pulling it up off the ground. So I discovered when I went to try to do this, that some of them are stuck so firmly to the tree that I couldn't even get my tools around it to cut. So that's what I'm thinking of, and you can see where I made a cut there. I couldn't do anything that I'm thinking of going back with a screwdriver, but if anybody has suggestions for tools for that, I would appreciate it. You can see on the left where I made some progress, but I still need to go back and work on that one. And I thought I was picking one that wasn't too difficult, but it turned out to be more difficult than I expected. So Carol's going to walk through the steps of how you can participate in this. Obviously, if you're a landowner, you can just go ahead and start working on your property. If you do rescue some trees after learning about this, we'd like to know about that. But the primary thing we're looking for are volunteers who are ready to go out around town and hand out brochures to other landowners about the problem, and then hopefully get them to take some action about it.
Thank you very much, Anne. So yeah, I'm going to walk you through the steps that we've outlined, and I want to reiterate what Anne said at the beginning. We're piloting this. We saw a lot from the Northern Virginia program that we thought would work. We made some adjustments, but we know that we've got potentially an interested set of folks who might be interested in being beta testers for us and helping us build a better program. So at the end of this, we're going to ask for your feedback about what worked, what didn't work, like what was your actual on the ground experience of doing this? Are the resources we've provided helpful? Is this enough guidance? Do you need more? Do you need additional training? Those sorts of things. And the other thing that I want to say is, and Anne did mention this at the beginning, we're having this native plant giveaway, and as the town, we often get a lot of interest from scout troops or community organizations. They want to do tree plantings, often on public land, and that's great, and we support that. And we always do things around Arbor Day and sometimes special tree planting events. But those actually are pretty challenging to pull off. We've got to prep the site and get the trees and get them planted. And then that's sort of the beginning of the work, because then you've got to really monitor that tree and water it for several years until it's established. I'm totally see you. Sorry. Yeah. And so that actually represents a lot of work. And what people don't realize is that you can be so much more impactful than a tree planting if you're actually out in the community helping to save mature trees. They're both needed, but I think this piece is kind of invisible, and we want to make it visible for people and give them a path forward for how to engage it. So the first step that we see that here is, let us know you're interested, right? Some of you in this room may be interested in being a beta tester for us. That would be great. So we've got an online interest form to sign up and just get some basic demographic information from you. If somebody wants to pull out their phone and see if that works, you can do so. We're gonna also, it does work. Okay, good. So you'll be my beta tester, Rebecca, for the remainder of this. So get in there, let us know that you're interested. You're not committed to much of anything. We would like if you sign up to commit to doing one section, and I'm gonna tell you what that means next. So then, once we know you're interested, we're going to send you a link to this one-page volunteer guide that kind of lays out all the steps I'm about to cover with you, right? With all the links that you will need to forms and other resources. This is way too small for you to read, but I just want to stress that it's 1 page of instruction. You don't have to read like a whole book to get started on this. And then we're going to send you, and this is linked in that step-by-step guide, to choosing a section to survey and we've broken them out into neighborhoods. So Anne and I have gone through and tried to create little groupings that pretty much cover most of the major neighborhoods of Blacksburg. I'm going to see if I can click over to that link now so we can take a look at that together. Yeah, it worked. Is that big enough for folks to see? I might need to make it a little bit bigger. 125. Does folks see that better?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So the way the spreadsheet works is we want you to go in here and take a look, say, oh, I live in McBride or I live in Woodbine. And it doesn't have to be a neighborhood you live in, but that we figured that might be of interest to folks. And then we've got a link to a map section here, right? And so this will take you to a separate, if that's going to work. Right? So here's McBride Village. This bigger area is McBride Village. So for each neighborhood, we've mostly just created 3 sections. We know we need to create more, but this is just to test the program, right? So you're saying, okay, I think I would be interested in doing this yellow section. I wish I had a mouse. I don't know how to scroll in without a mouse. But you know how to do this? Make it go in closer. Is it like this? Oh, yeah, like that. Right, so you can kind of see the outline of what we're talking about here. So this one here is like, or the blue one, maybe that's easier to see, is like mostly Burris Drive. And you can see like that's the outline of what we're talking about. And, oh, wait. What's that? And help me get back to where I was. Oh, is it just the tabs over? This bar is super in my way. Here we go. Okay, so there we go. So anyway, that's just so you can go through and see what you might be interested in. We've also given you some information about how many homes or lots we're talking about, but we've tried to make them kind of within a band of around 10 acres of land and between 20 to 20, an average of 25 buildings or lot per. This is just an estimation of, we think you could probably knock this out in an hour and a half. The process that we've laid out. This is one of the things we want feedback from you all on. Are these areas too big to tackle all at once? Not big enough? What do you need? And then there's some additional location notes. But at the outset, all you need to do is put in your name and your email. So we will now know you're interested in tackling this section, and we will get in contact with you and get you the packets, which we have here. And if you wouldn't mind just passing out 1 or 2 packets and just have them go around. This is the information that we will get you. Yeah, actually, instead of the packets, just send that around. Yeah, send that around for folks to look at.
These are copies of the maps that you showed there.
Yeah, just so folks can see that. Okay, so is that part relatively clear? How to sign up? Okay, great. All right. Oh, I had a whole separate slide for this and I forgot it. Okay, so yeah, choose a section to survey by neighborhood. We do ask that at least for this beta test period, don't sign up for more than 1 or 2 sections, and sign up for something that you think you'll be able to get done in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Because if somebody's name is there, they've sort of called dibs on it. And if you sit on it for 6 months, I mean, somebody else could be doing that. So sign up for something you're actually ready to work on in the near future.
I just wonder if we want to mention like outside Blacksburg.
Yes, sorry, that's a great point. Thank you, Anne. So because we were a little bit building the plane as it was leaving the ground to get ready for today, we only mapped out sections for Blacksburg. But if you are a Christiansburg resident or someone else who lives in the NRV, that's great. Just let us know what you want to do. We'll create the map section for you and include it. But just this is just where we're starting from for now.
And I was gonna say, just trying to coordinate so that we don't have 2 people going into the same place. So if you coordinate through us, even if you're not in one of those areas, then we can work that out.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And it also helps us keep track of, going forward, what sections have already been done. If people are just out in the community doing it, we don't know what's been covered, what still needs to be covered, how to marshal new volunteers. So then step 4 is get your gear together. So the thing you will most need is your section packet, and those are Anne can send those around. But essentially, what this includes is a 1-pager that is just for note taking for you, a field notes page, as well as 15 flyers. And we've shown you the flyer before, but I'm going to give you that in more detail. You'll also just want these sort of basic materials, something that you can tape the flyers to the doorknob or front door. Something to keep things dry, the flyer, something to write with, something to write on, Binoculars can be helpful, totally optional. You don't need them. And then a backpack to carry everything. Sorry, did somebody have a question? I heard someone talking.
Taking one of these type of things?
What you can when you're, these are just to pass around
Right.
for right now. Yeah, just so folks can get a look at them.
Oh, hi, this is David Jenkins. I'm online. I didn't quite understand how to sign up. I'd like to sign up for some areas in Strubles Mill area. How do I do that?
Okay, so the question for folks in the audience was, how do you sign up? So I think that was Mr. Jenkins asked this question.
Yeah.
So can you see the slide that I'm showing that says choose a section to survey?
Yes.
So you should be able to, we can send out this link separately. You probably can't click on it from what we're showing you right now, but you can pull it up if you're able to on your phone using that QR code and go into that spreadsheet and select a Strubles Mill section.
Okay.
If that's unclear, we can follow up with you separately. Maybe the first step would be to fill out that interest form, and we can follow up with you if anything is unclear.
And you
Okay.
can also, this information is posted on our Sustainable Blacksburg website. So if you go to our main
Oh,
page, you will see a link to the tree rescuers. And then when you go to that, it has information about signing up. It has some of the little videos. It has a link to the interest form, and then there's a link to the handbook also. And when you're in the handbook, you'll get to the section sign up.
Thank
A lot
you.
of that other information is linked from the handbook, but there's a
Yeah.
number of other resources there.
Yeah, we just recommend going to the Sustainable Blacksburg website with the Tree Rescuers project page, and you can just hunt around in all the links in there and probably find what you need. Did that answer your question, Mr. Jenkins?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. All right, where was I? All right. So now you're ready. You've got your packet together. You've read through the instructions. Now you're ready to start surveying. It's super important. I know this is obvious, but really don't trespass on private property. We really want you only making observations from a public right of way. As I said before, you're going to want to use, and it's probably made its way around now, use that field notes form to record your observations, kind of house by house or lot by lot as you go. You do not need to be a master naturalist to do this. You do not need to be an expert. If you see a vine that's either twisted tightly around a tree or smothering it, it's an invasive vine. And again, we're only focusing on 2 vines for this project phase. So it's most likely to be one of those with the caveat that Virginia creeper and poison ivy can fool you. But you don't need to be an expert. When in doubt, drop off a flyer, and then that gives the homeowner resources to find out more. We've got hyperlinks and QR codes for them to go to the Blue Ridge Prison site and other resources that'll help them more definitively ID what's on their own property and let them take action. So this is not trespassing, but if you decide you are going to drop off a flyer with them, go to their front door and leave it on there, tape to the glass or a doorknob. Use non-damaging tape. Don't go crazy with duct tape or something. Don't go to a side door or a back door. We don't know if folks are okay with that. And then never leave a flyer in a mailbox. That's against the law. Maybe not everybody knows that. Okay, so this is the information that we want you to share with landowners. And showed you this flyer earlier. This is the one that we have mocked up. The front says, kind of it's important to save the trees and what happens if what good can come from you cutting back these invasive vines. And then the center portion is for you to fill out. I would recommend filling these out before you leave the house, so you're not doing it out in the field, but we do want our volunteers to identify themselves. So, you can just say, your first name and last initial if you don't want to leave your full name. And then who you're volunteering on behalf of. So you might be a master naturalist, or you might be a scout troop. If you're none of those things, you can just say you're a volunteer with Sustainable Blacksburg, right? That's just, and you're supporting the NRB Tree Rescuers initiative. And then in the bottom, if you'd like additional information or assistance, some homeowners may have questions. Some may want to ask for help, like coming out and doing a more definitive ID, or even get some volunteers. If there's extensive vines on their property, get some volunteers out them to help them. So leave some contact information at the bottom. You can leave your own contact information. That's great. If you're not comfortable with that, we have set up a separate Gmail, which is nrvtreerescuers@gmail.com. And that's in the guidance document. So you have that, and then they'll email, and then we'll follow up with them. And then we also have attached to that, if you saw in the packet that rolled around, some explicit, just a single slip that gives you directions on how to safely remove these vines from your tree without damaging the tree, with some QR codes to additional resources. So then the last thing is, once you have finished your section, we want you to report what you saw and what you did, right? And so you go back to that initial tracking form where you signed up for your section and fill out the remaining yellow fields. And let me see if I can get back to there. I don't quite know how to do that. Okay. All right, is it this one? Yes. Okay. So you saw, so you can see it more clearly on this screen. So the volunteer name and volunteer email, those are yellow fields that we want you to fill out. And then you get over here and there's another set of fields. So column H is like the status. So change it to from not started to completed, and give us a date that you completed it. And you should be able to take your field notes form, right? And tell us, okay, across like all 25 properties, I saw, 75 trees that I thought were at risk. And then how many brochures you left for homeowners. And then this is just kind of additional notes. Like maybe you had a conversation with a landowner and that there's something that they wanted to communicate to us, or just, there were a lot of empty lots on this property and I really wasn't sure how to handle that. Just whatever came up for you as you did that. So we're trying to, unlike the NOVA program, which had like separate forms for each piece of this, we're trying to just have it all in one place. This probably goes without saying, only edit. Everyone has editing access to this, so don't delete anyone else's stuff and only do your like row. If you're McBride A, make sure you're not deleting McBride B's data. So we're kind of, just want to make sure we're not losing data over time, and we'll save it periodically. It is, I know, this is the part where Ed and I have debated, like, it's gonna work. We have protected the fields with the maps and the other descriptors, but we're leaving probably what we'll do is like monthly, we'll export everything so we don't lose it all if someone gets real squirrely in there. But we wanted to make it really accessible to the public so they can do their own reporting. And if this doesn't feel comfortable for you, great, just email us the raw data from your worksheet and we'll put it in there for you. You don't have to worry.
So we'll be able to read other notes.
Yeah, you'll be able to see everybody else's progress. Yeah. So there's a little, almost a spirit of like competition here, like who's the leaderboard, right? How do I full screen this? Oh, remember, I had to escape to get out of it. Oh. Is it slideshow? Oh, I can see that. Oh, thank you. Well, folks can see it. Maybe I'll just leave it like this.
Sorry.
It's not the end of the world, unless somebody can tell me quickly how to do that. I never give presentations from Google Drive. You think it's slideshow? All right, I'm gonna blame you if it knocks us back to the beginning. Yeah, that was it.
Okay, good.
Good job. Thanks, Devin. Yeah, so these are the bulleted items of things we want you to put in there. And again, if you're not sure, just email us your field notes, summary of your findings from your field notes to that.
Take a picture of your.
Yeah, you can take a picture of it and email that to us. Anything works.
So we can't add photographs to the notes. That would be too much.
No, but maybe what we'll do, I like the idea of photographs, and maybe what we'll do is create a folder where people can upload photographs.
Unless that would be intruding in privacy.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Maybe that's something we'll add to the feedback survey, because I do think if we're out there taking pictures of people's properties, they might feel squirrely about it. But if there's some that are like on public land or something, maybe. I would love to get some before and afters. Actually, that's what I'm really interested in. It's like success stories.
Right, yeah, I think the Northern Virginia program, they just said, don't show people's houses, you don't want to embarrass them or whatever.
Yeah. That's something for us to maybe noodle a little bit. And so then at the end, we would like if you sign up for a section, we'd like for you to get it done really before April 22nd. do at least one section and then respond to our feedback survey, which I'm not going to click on, but it has, you know, sort of questions like how to find out about this, what motivates you, what were the resources helpful, you know, when you were out in the field, did you, you know, how did homeowners receive you? Like, we just want to know how it's going and how we can make it better. And with that, these are some additional resources that can help you. So if you yourself, or maybe, you know, neighbors of yours know you already have some invasive vines you want to tackle, the big event, which is going to be on April 1st, is open, which is a great way to get a bunch of students out on your property and working on this. I've requested a group of big event students to come help with some invasive vine removal on my own property. Sorry, did someone have a question? Oh, okay. And you can also request online help from us, you know, just use our project email, and we can actually connect you with some master naturalists who might be willing to help you do a more precise ID on your property. And then again, as Ian noted at the beginning, all of these resources are available. Here's the link to our project page within the larger Sustainable Blacksburg website. That, I think, is open for questions.
Actually, I just want to mention one other thing too about the master naturalists. There's two pieces where you can get service hours doing surveys, but also to be someone who could potentially go out and help landowners identify.
I think we need to check on that, because I thought I understood where you don't, because it's private land, we can't really go on there and do work.
Yeah, it's more to provide the guidance
Right,
to people doing that. Right,
And ID plans. things
right,
like
right.
that.
But that piece has been included as far as
It has been.
helping them, yes, you figure out what's what. So we've got a great resource of master naturalists who are familiar with these sorts of things, who can help with that. So, sorry.
So you had a question, and then I see we have 9 questions in the chat. So let's do you first.
I just wanted to ask, what are the 6 vines that you want to try to get rid of besides bittersweet?
We're not, those were the Northern Virginia vines, were the 6 vines. They had more to tackle than we did. So we're solely focusing on bittersweet. I mean, there are some others like honeysuckle, but it doesn't tend to be as big of a problem in our observation. That's one of the things also you can tell us in the feedback. Like, I would suggest adding vine X, because this is a problem that needs to be addressed.
What are the other 3 that are other 4 that they can find in Virginia?
I know there was porcelain berry, mile-minutes,
I don't remember.
some honey. Yeah, I don't remember. They're ones that we don't see as much here.
It's listed on the website.
Yeah, right. Let me get to this. Like, you know,
I'm a landowner, fighting losing battle against Kusu. Haven't been able to dig it out.
so you have kudzu. Are you in Blacksburg? Shawsville. Oh, interesting. Yeah, we've never seen that here in Blacksburg. My recommendation would be like, is it like a large property with extensive kudzu?
Yeah, it's actually, I'm on a rural road
Mhm.
and, there's a hunting property and Kusu is taking over, so it's moving my way.
That almost seems like that could be a bigger project for like an extension agent to support you in that.
The prism people.
The prism, the Blue Ridge, you know what Blue Ridge Prism is?
Yeah.
So Blue Ridge Prism stands for Blue Ridge Partnership something invasive
Regional
species.
invasive species management.
Yeah.
All of that, and they do lots of workshops online, I don't talk to
Great, he's trying to dig out the roots somehow.
Yeah, they're,
Right. They have a lot of fact sheets about different invasive species and how to tackle them. And somebody has actually said in the chat, they're seeing kudzu on Virginia Tech land also.
Oh my gosh.
yes.
Yes, sir. Oh, and then after you were going to get to the chat questions.
That was one of the questions I was going to ask about Virginia Tech land.
Mhm.
Because if you do the Huckleberry, it borders some of Tech
Right.
and you can see all kinds of things out there.
Mhm.
I don't know if they have their own people that treat that or if they even bother about it.
You know, it's a great question. I think we have enough to do with just the town properties, you know, and then I'm sure that the university would like to partner with us on it. in future, but I think at least for the pilot program, we're just gonna focus on neighborhoods, either in Blacksburg or elsewhere in the NRV. And then we're anticipating expanding to some commercial and institutional properties like church properties and businesses, because that's, we also see invasive vines on those, but we're kind of trying to bite off what we can chew for now. But yeah, you're not wrong. There's a fair bit of that. Like the Turf Grass Research Center is overrun with invasives. Yeah, it's everywhere, right? And once you start seeing it, you can't unsee how big the problem is. Okay, so would you read some of the chat questions aloud?
Yes, actually, it's a perfect question for you because it says, how can town take responsibility for trees growing on town right of way along the roads? And then they also, can town help landowners by providing tools to cut thick vines too big for loppers?
Okay, so the first question is like town addressing invasives in either town-owned lands or rights of way. It's something that we're looking, Ann mentioned the Stewardship of Town Lands group that's been meeting for about a year and a half. We are trying to get our head wrapped around the scale and scope of that problem. We're focusing our first efforts on Heritage Park because we know how bad things have gotten out there. But but really, this is gonna to develop a town-wide plan for managing invasive. We're never going to beat them, but want to beat them back to a point where we can get them to a manageable. That's going to take a lot of work and a lot of resources, and we're figuring that out. The second question about tools, Ann and I actually had a conversation about, this is the library where we are right now, has lots of different, not just check out books, you can check out things, right? And so we had this idea of having a checkoutable duffel sack that would have the tools you would need to do this. And I believe the librarian, Monina, said she'd be in support of that, or did I make that up in my head?
We haven't talked to her.
Okay, well, now we're going to talk to her. But in general, like there's lots of things like that where you can check it out. And we might have a resource guide of here's what to look for. And, from some pruners, loppers, maybe a handsaw, a flathead screwdriver, just like if you shouldn't have to go out and buy those tools. I think we can come up with the resources to do that, and you can check it out from the library. So
I wonder if the China House lending library, tool lending, I haven't checked on that for years. Don't they have that?
I also don't know the status. So folks are unaware, the NRV Time Bank, which is a way for folks to swap services and earn credits, also started a side project called the Tool Lending Library that was based out of the Habitat Restore. It's been years since I kind of just was getting started, and then COVID hit and then it all fell apart in the organizing team. I don't know if it's real or not, but it's something we can look into, because that's another way to make it more accessible to the whole NRV, is have a checkoutable invasive duffel removal kit.
I don't think you have to be a member of the Time Bank, do you, to use it? Maybe you do.
It's been so long since I've taught. Yeah, but I think that's a great. Yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah. Another question for the chat?
One of them was just about the instructions here saying it says garden clippers, and they were talking about how you might need a handsaw. So we did say that in the presentation, but right, you could
choose your implement for the size of vine, right? You can use little nippers if it's small, and then you're going to need bring out the big guns when it's like yay big around.
Some of the others are just about how to protect the data.
Oh, there's also good advice. We need to say that chat because we don't know.
Yes. That's the rest are kind of common.
Okay. All right. So other questions from the audience, and I will say, while you're formulating your next pithy questions, we have enough packets. If folks are like, yes, I want to get going today, we can hand you your packet and just promise you'll go and sign up for Don't Just Take These, because it takes some resources to actually do these nice color printings. So don't take them if you're not going to do it. But are there any additional questions?
Well, here, just a comment. I noticed that you're not working on poison ivy, and I can see that would be difficult, but I'll just point out that poison ivy has the capacity of growing up in a tree and then going to seed. The birds eat the seed and spread it all over the town. So at some point, it might be worthwhile just informing landowners if they have poison ivy, it'd be helpful to remove it.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And we're not sure how to handle poison ivy, right? Because it is technically not invasive, but it's also not a desirable plant in most locations, particularly ones where people are gonna be and animals. But it's tricky for us to give advice on that, since we're focusing on invasives, it's like it messes up the message. So I think maybe that's more of like a conversation with the homeowner. If you're saying, you know, look, poison ivy technically isn't invasive, but if you don't want it, you know, you may also want to remove it, obviously using additional care to not have the oils touch your skin, and then, you know, make sure that your gloves get washed properly afterwards. But it was too much to convey all at once. So, but we're debating how to handle the poison ivy issue. So great question. You had a question, and then Rebecca.
Wondering about, there's a lot of rental properties
Mhm.
in Blacksburg. How would that play out? If, you know, does the renter have the right to ask you to do that, or, you know?
Does the renter have the right to ask who to do what?
To remove the invasives from the property if they don't own it?
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's a fair question.
Yeah.
I think we're presuming that, like, you know, the neighborhoods that we've identified aren't mostly rental. But I think some of them, like the Bennett Hill Progress neighborhood, is probably about a mix of 50-50 rental and owner occupied. I think you can leave the flyer with a renter, and they say, oh, we're a renter, and then say, I really encourage you to talk to your landlord about this. Or you could ask, you know, who's your leasing agent, because there may come a time down the road where we more proactively try to engage the leasing companies. There's a lot of them in Blacksburg, but we could probably get pretty far by like directly engaging Noonchester, because they probably have 400 properties. And seeing if they'd be willing to, you know, partner with us for like big event, like have them identify some properties.
Yeah, I actually have,
Sorry, say that one more time.
There are apps you can put on your cell phone. I have one on mine, tells you everything, what was the property, where they live, who their firstborn was, everything.
Oh, thanks.
Which they paid for, the whole nine yards. It's called Unstand.
Hunt stand? Okay, okay, good to know.
yeah, we knew that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I have a daughter who's a Virginia Tech student, and I have my eye on the property where she is renting. I mean, she's in a development, but when I pull in there, there's a hill full of English ivy with all these trees that, when they fall, are gonna fall on the cars that are parked where I always park when I go there. So I'm hoping to try to approach.
Well, even just from a
the realtor.
liability perspective, if they had a tree go down and harm someone or take out a bunch of cars, they don't want that kind of heat, right? So there, you know, and I on my way home from work every day, I pass an apartment complex on Glade Road where the English ivy is just choking out these really large, mature white pines, and I just like want to jump off my bike and like start running by, but I don't. Rebecca, you had a question.
No, I just wanted to say that in the BT Old Growth Forest, Stadium Wood, we do not remove poison ivy. Poison ivy is native, it's good for the birds, and it stays.
Right, but it's a fair point that you might not want it like in your yard where your dog's gonna rub up against the vine. So it's like homeowners need to make their own choices, but in a natural setting like that, I would say, yes, that is the right call to say it's part of our ecosystem. It's good for the birds, but maybe not in your suburban yard.
Sorry, for those of you online, the comment was that poison ivy is native, and so like in Stadium Woods, it's not removed, and we're not recommending removing it, and definitely beware if you decide to do it, because I can guarantee you that now is not too early to get it. November is not too late to get it.
You can get it around.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
it's not-
touching the vines, I
Yeah.
have had terrible cases of it, so beware if you're wanting to
And
take
don't
it out.
burn the vines.
Right, but we're not advocating for that.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm pretty sure, I mean, it's not leafed out right now, at least not the bigger vines. So that one reason we wanted to get started now is because it's easier to tell what's what. There was also a question in the chat. Somebody asked if they could save the town money by printing the brochures themselves.
Yes.
And they are, well, the brochure and this form are on the website. I didn't have the insert, but I will get that.
Yeah, everything should be, or we will have up on the website in short order. Everything is there and printable. You know, I think because the materials might be, you know, out in the weather, I mean, you're obviously not going to go out on like a rainy day and do this. But if you leave it on someone's doorknob and it rains, it'll, you know, it's just an inkjet printer, so think about whether you have that resource if you wanna print your own, but yeah, we are not stopping you if you wanna print them on your own, because it's a lot of resources, for us to do these printings. Printing is expensive, y'all.
Right.
Um,
Sustainable Blacksburg has set aside some funds. The town has printed this first batch, but Sustainable Blacksburg is going to be helping us in the printing of.
I believe you had a question?
The, talking about removing, poison ivy or poison oak. Dogs run up against it, that's not the problem, it's when they come home and start rubbing the dog. That's the problem.
Okay, so the comment was, the dog's touching it isn't the problem, it's when you touch the dog that's rubbed up against the poison ivy and the poison oak. So I guess our guidance is don't pet your dog. We'll put that in the flyer. Yeah, yeah,
Or keep your dog on leash.
yeah, we're good to run leash. Other questions from the group or online?
Good job.
Thank you, thank you. We're excited about this. So if you're jazzed, let us know. You can take a packet today if you want one. Sign up online, reach out to us if you have questions, if anything's unclear, and help us really build a good program, because then we want to do like a bigger